is gonna be a gas.
We see something in the trailer that wasn't in the first 3 episodes, and it's you in the comic accurate Scarlet Witch costume. And I'm curious what it was like putting that on for the first time, and if you realize how important it is for geeks like us to just see it for a moment.
Well, I loved it. I loved it. And you'll see more than moments of it. And I just thought it was such a joy to put the thing on, to put the huge headband on and the leotard and the pink tights. And it was, the whole thing was just hilarious. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
I loved that costume so much because I didn't have to work too hard for laughs.
So I got to see the first 3 episodes, and to me, the classic sitcom miscommunications were so incredibly funny. When did you and Paul realize how strong your comedic chemistry was together? Because it's not something that was needed in the MCU.
I don't know. I think he and I, we constantly just kind of felt like we were swinging for the fences because we could, with being in these sitcoms. And he just really brought his inner Dick Van Dyke, and he was just fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it was when we shot episode 1, and we did it in front of a live studio audience, and people seemed to really enjoy it. And I was terrified, and so was Lizzie. And so actually, maybe Kathryn Hahn wasn't terrified, but I certainly was. And it was just such an awesome experience.
Hiya, kids. Auntie Agnes is here, and I've got a couple of tricks up my sleeve.
Let's just take it from the top.
Humor in the different decades, it doesn't work from one to the next. Like, what's funny in the 50s is not funny in the 60s, and can you just talk about how you guys approached that?
I mean, that's a really great question, Sean. Like we did a sitcom boot camp, which was so fun. I'm sure they've talked about it, or someone has talked to you about it.
Well, first we went through this whole sitcom boot camp just to really understand the tone and the structure for each different decade.
We've got to watch examples of every decade, or every sitcom that we were going to be shooting from that decade. And so that was very helpful. In terms of the jokes, like Jack Schaefer wrote scripts that were very, especially like I felt it in the 50s and 60s, but in all of them that weren't satirizing or parodying that time period, parodying, is that it? But that time period, but really were specific and true. Like, it was important for us to get inside of the decade rather than make fun of it from the outside, if that makes sense.
Our head writer, Jack Schaefer, just did such a beautiful job being so particular and specific for each decade and making sure we captured that the spirit of each decade. So that definitely huge shout out to Jack and her team and making those switches. It's not very easy. And then as for us as the actors, sometimes you have laugh tracks and sometimes you don't. And how does the comedy and the pauses and all of that work? It was definitely a learning situation.
Wanda, what's up?
Who are you?
I don't know.
I want to drill down a little bit even further too, is just in terms of the energy that you have to bring. Your energy in the character is so different from the 60s to the 70s. And it's so totally different than what I would assume that you're taught of how to act now. It
was really interesting because a lot of times Matt, our director, would be like, well, you can do more. Let's do more. And we're like, woo, we really feel like we're doing too much here, Matt. And he's like, I promise you, you're not. And then once you watch it, you're like, wow, it really worked. Thanks, Matt. Glad we trusted you. But it's just, it really is a matter of trust because a lot of it does feel quite antithetical to how we do movies, television these days.
That was really important to us. And it is important to the show as well. What comedy is or what humor is for each decade. It evolves and changes. I mean, the 80s become ridiculously sincere with all of its, all these moments to these teaching moments, and you know, the sad music, and it's like so strange what we watched in the 80s and the 90s, and then we get into kind of the aughts and the 2000s and 10s, and it's so cynical. Everything becomes way cynical. So it's interesting to use that type of humor and help tell our story.
The jokes were really, like you were pointing out, like really true to that period. And so we did it in front of a live studio audience. We shot it like the 50s was in front of a live audience. We had no idea if those jokes were going to land in any way because they were so from the era. And it's surprising how much they did. It was very hard for me, though, who likes to improvise, to not. And it was very hard for me who to run that kind of a tight ship. Like it is just it's so much about literally just like timing and rehearsing your moves. And like, I mean, I like I'm used to a little bit more like anarchic comedy. And so it was really fun to just have to be so precision, which is like, I think what so many of those were, it seems like.
It also feels like a style and an energy and a pacing that you're just not trained to do now, you know?
Right. But yet you can see it when it's too much. Like, it's funny, like, yet there's such an ease. Like I watch, watching those old Dick Van Dyke ones, you're like, and Donna Reed, like they're so relaxed and they have such an ease to them, and their chemistry is so true. And so we took a lot like from the Dick Van Dyke Show. I mean, and I think it comes through with just Lizzie and Paul's chemistry, which is just like so off the charts and like just so real. But there is such an ease. It's so relaxed, even though like, that they've like worked those beats and those bits a bazillion times. They're just tossed away. And there's just something so punk about it that I was really into doing.
Am I dead?
No. Why would you think that?
Because you are.
I'm very curious if you knew about the show, that you guys would be doing the show before you filmed Vision's death scene from Infinity War.
No.
So when you found out then that you were going to be able to return to the character in that format, what did that feel like?
It felt like a relief. I was, I got a call from the boss. My contract was up, and I got a call from the boss to come and see him in the office. And so, usually what that means, right? And so I looked at my wife and I said, "Whoop, I think that's it. I'm getting the cam." And so I showed up, and I didn't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. So I kind of went in and I was like, "Look, guys, it's been a great run. Thank you so much. I've loved it." And they were like, "Are you quitting?" And I went, "Aren't you firing me?" And they went, "No." And I went, "Oh, great." And they went, "We're going to pitch you a new TV show." And I went, "Oh, okay."
In comic book lore, characters come back in all different crazy shapes and sizes. So when you filmed his death, did you assume that was it, or you just figured, they'll figure out some way?
I was sort of hoping that there'd be some sort of way to reanimate me, but that was not on the cards. And then, and Kevin's right. Kevin is right. Kevin is nearly always right, and he said, it's going to be more powerful if we hold this back, and he was right.
Kevin is right is a tattoo I feel like I need to get.
Kevin is right.
We are an unusual couple,
Oh, I don't think that was ever in question.
So now that you've experienced both long-form television and doing the movies, if you had to choose how you would want to continue telling Wanda's stories, which one do you prefer?
I love the flexibility of both. I mean, I think there's something that's really tangible about going back to playing a film, and you have this constraint, and you have this time, and the economy of time and the economy of moments in film means something different to me now. Like with just going to a film project after doing WandaVision. You work so hard for all these moments, but you're moving so quickly and so fast, and there's so much to get through that there's something really beautiful about the economy of the film. And so I'm loving both, because I also thought the show was just always meant to happen, and it was just the most fun I've had on a project.
Are you here to help us?
What is Nia DaCosta going to bring to the MCU?
All of her wonderfulness. I'm really excited for her. Yeah. We got to work together on Candyman. So to have another turn to collaborate and work with one another, I'm really excited. And she's dope.
Gotta see Candyman. Gotta see it.
All of us.
God.